Okay guys, I just finished watching the season finale of Loki and I was so eager to talk about it. I'm gonna dedicate this whole episode on the first season. Please beware that this video will contain massive spoilers of season 1 of Loki. Meanwhile, we will be drawing an illustration, probably a scene with the two Lokis together. Espresso-chan, would you be so kind as to prepare some coffee for our guest? Okay, this is super interesting because I'm one of those who have been wanting a Loki movie since he first appeared in the Thor movies. I love grey characters. They're always my favorite. To me, I think it's because that they are the most relatable, because they are flawed like all of us. Honestly, who can relate to the god of thunder, a ruggedly handsome, tall, muscular blonde guy with the perfect beard stubble? I can't speak for you, but I certainly can't relate to that beard stubble. See, I can already relate to Loki more than Thor with just the facial hair. Thor is way too perfect in the MCU. I like him, but I don't relate to him or his struggles. He's not that interesting to me personally. Loki, on the other hand, is imperfect, flawed, and has a lot of room to grow. The only positive connection that we had from him at first was that he was Thor's brother. We had that brother connection. Other than that, he appeared to be very villainous, until he started showing inner struggle, battling his own narcissism in favor of helping someone else than himself. In the later Marvel movies, Loki is like the Vegeta of the MCU. Actually, there are a few Vegetas in the MCU. The Winter Soldier is another one. The characters that are not pure evil, but have a big conflict of interest with the main protagonist, or they do bad things to achieve a greater goal that is arguably good. I guess in the case of Vegeta, he was actually evil at first, but his rivalry with Goku eventually became a friendship, and Goku's good values started bleeding on him and slowly changing him into a good guy. I love this. People can change. I used to think that people can't change, until I changed drastically over the course of my life myself. Loki is a narcissist, which is a flaw that is very common and we see a lot around us in our lives. And you can easily see that his family situation shaped him this way. He would never be good enough, he would never be anything close to his perfect brother, he wouldn't feel the same respect from his father. So he had to compensate somehow and become a narcissist to give himself the confidence and the self-respect that he needs. He had to give it to himself because nobody else would. I'm not a psychologist, but we know that family situations and the way that our siblings and parents treat us in our childhood will greatly affect our personality. So there is a reason why Loki is like this. In the latest Thor movies, we've seen Loki starting to change. I mean, he deceived everyone and his brother until the very end, but still managed, when it really counted, to do the right thing. And it seems like he reconciled with Thor at the very end in Thor Ragnarok. But yeah, I love this character, and I love the actor Tom Hiddleston. I remember me and Crystal, my girlfriend, talking a lot about how they should really make Loki movies. I remember seeing a fan-made trailer of a Loki movie and I thought, why is this not a thing? There's clearly a whole Loki fandom out there. And after a couple of very successful Marvel spin-off series, they finally did it! We have the Loki series! That's better than a movie alternative for me. I always prefer the story pacing of TV series because the writers have more freedom with when and how they should deliver the main events. Movies have a set structure that they have to follow and it's something very basic and formulaic. I especially always call the MCU movies very formulaic personally. Don't get me wrong, they're great, but a little formulaic. They have a great recipe, a great formula, and they're playing safe by keeping this formula in every movie. But like I said, they have a bit more freedom with the TV series format. Okay, so let's get into the Loki series. There's a lot to get into. I need to take some notes so that I cover everything. Okay, first of all, I think that the writing of the character was very faithful to his characteristics and personality. It's definitely Loki. I love that the events, or even Loki looking at his own timeline's future, only taught him that he's just what people say he is. Loki, the god of mischief, the shapeshifter, is in fact a guy that's born to lose and that is somehow only abnormally skilled at surviving, making him the god of survival in a way. The ultimate loser is given possibly the most important role in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's hilarious. I love that Loki, a flawed, narcissist, deceiving little brat, is put in this position where he ultimately has the opportunity to impact his whole timeline. Yeah, let's talk about this. In the season finale, yeah, spoiler alert again, the two Lokis are faced with a very difficult decision that will impact their whole timeline, universe, and worlds. They either decide to leave things as they are with the TVA controlling people's fate, minimizing the natural chaos of life and free will, Or they abolish the TVA and chaos comes back in the timelines and evil timeline gods will start trying to invade and destroy other timelines. Yay, fun! This choice is the most important decision in this whole franchise, and it's awesome that it was given to Loki. This is the most meaningful, impactful moment of the MCU. Everything that the Avengers accomplished, including stopping Thanos, were absolutely microscopic in importance when compared to the impact that Loki's decisions will have. Isn't this fantastic? Our favorite little shit has the power to impact whole timelines, and each timeline has their own universe, planets, worlds, gods. This is how important this situation is, and it's given to Loki, the god of being so miserable that we eventually get attached to him until he gets his own series. This is by far my favorite story arc in the Marvel Universe. I'm sorry, Marvel fans. I love a little bit of cleverness and ridiculousness in my storytelling. Another thing that's interesting about this story arc is what it means for the MCU and the timelines. They went pretty far into explaining the timeline concept and even what lies at the end of one, and how they interact with each other. They have to be very careful with writing this series because it largely impacts the rest of the MCU. It's a deep dive into the timeline lore. Okay, let's talk about the elephant Loki in the room, the Loki's relationship in just a minute. But first, while we're on the topic of timelines, there is one thing that I'm having trouble understanding. Okay, stay with me. So in Avengers Endgame, if I recall, Banner, Lang, Rogers, and Stark travel back to 2012 at the moment of Loki's invasion from the original Avengers movie. And during that sequence, 2012 Loki grabbed the Space Stone and escaped with it. And this is this version of Loki that we have in the series. I'm very interested in this fact. So we're following that 2012 Loki and are observing his character development during the series. He seems to evolve really fast into a better person when exposed to these situations compared to the Loki that we saw in all of the Thor movies. Loki was a deceiving brat until the very end of Thor Ragnarok. But the 2012 Loki that we follow in the TV series seems to change faster. I would have somehow preferred it if the Loki that we were following was the same one from the Thor movies, because now that he is behaving heroically, it would seem like a fitting continuity to the previous movies where he was still very selfish and problematic. So we kind of have to forget about the old Loki that we knew and get on board with this new one from the past. See, this is just one of many issues that come up when you include time traveling in fiction. It causes a bunch of weird problems. Anyway, so this 2012 Loki disappears, gets teleported to another world, and the TVA finds him and arrests him. While incarcerated, Mobius shows him a video of all the events in his life, including his future and the events of Endgame with Thanos. So he is caught up with the facts. He is caught up with the events of Endgame, Thanos, and his own future actions. So, okay, at least he kind of did absorb all of the information and saw himself deceive people but ultimately reconcile with Thor at the end of Ragnarok. Like maybe he absorbed his character development from these movies and these events and is up to date with the other Loki. Oh boy, are you still following me? Yeah, so this 2012 Loki is now updated with what he missed from all of the events in the movies and can finally progress from there. This leads me to one very small thing that I think could have been better. I think that the show is giving us what we want just a little bit too soon. The pacing is going a little fast and I think a lot of you can agree with me here. I'm talking about his friendship with Mobius and the romance with female Loki. If this was a Japanese anime, they would have stretched the relationship's climax into oblivion for like 5 seasons, which is not necessarily a good thing, but they went a little fast. You could tell, for example, when Loki hugged Mobius before going to fight the Cloud Doggo in the sky, and Loki told him, "Thank you, my friend." See, I don't know that this is what we want. We want them to be close friends, but it happened a bit too fast, a bit too easy. And the romance between the Lokis also happened and climaxed very quickly. When something like this happens in the first season, it makes me feel like they don't plan on having more than one season, but they clearly confirmed the second season. So yeah, they rushed the resolution and climax of these relationships a little bit, but overall, every episode was candy to me. It was a beautiful but chaotic set of circumstances and consequences. I think it's much better than what I could wish for. They went way out of their Marvel movie formula to create this. You could tell by the tone of the very first episode, where Loki sits in a room with Mobius, and Mobius just makes fun of Loki the whole episode and calls him basically the ultimate loser, while they somehow start growing respect for each other. It really sets the tone of the series. It feels like a more mature humor than the rest of the franchise, I think. Like almost British style of awkward humor in the first episodes. Okay, here we go. The romance between the two Lokis. What did you think of it? Please let me know in the comments. This is a very interesting scenario. In a sense, it is extremely fitting that a Loki would fall in love with a Loki because he's the ultimate narcissist, and who else can truly get him than another Loki? Sylvie, the female Loki, she gets him, she respects him, and at this point, Sylvie and Mobius are the only people that have a respectful, positive kind of admiration for our Loki. They can see his qualities and they are quickly fond of him. So honestly, in maybe all of Loki's life, Sylvie and Mobius might just be the two best romantic options for him. Yeah, I mean, why not Mobius? The series clearly established that Loki is bisexual, so we never know. So yeah, I'm sure you're all asking the question, what if the two Lokis from different timelines had sex? Would it be like, you know what, never mind. But what if they had a baby? No, I'm out. So yeah, their romance should probably not happen. But are we really judging the sexual relationships of Norse gods from different timelines? Do you guys know who these gods are? I mean, the Norse gods and the Greek gods both did a lot worse. For example, Zeus canonically slept with over 50 people, demigods and gods, including his sisters and offsprings. And Loki. Look, here's the deal with Loki. In the real Norse mythology, the gods had the humans build a wall around Asgard. But they didn't want to pay the mason, so they said, okay, we'll pay you if you build the wall before the end of winter. It turns out that the mason had an extraordinary horse that helped him build the wall much faster. The gods decided to blame Loki for this problem because everything is always Loki's fault. And they threatened him with a cruel death. So Loki transformed himself into a mare and lured the mason's horse away so that he wouldn't finish the wall in time. Loki mated with the horse and shared a love nest with it for 9 months. In the end, good guy Thor decided to smash the mason's head with his hammer just to make extra sure that they didn't have to pay that bill. And that's how Asgard's wall were created. Don't we love mythology stories? They're just the best. So in comparison, the MCU Loki falling for himself from another timeline is not the weirdest thing he's done. I mean, the real Loki had sex with a horse and brought back an 8-legged horse baby to Asgard. I'm just saying. But I think it's made to be an element of humor and awkwardness to amplify the whole flawed, awkward, narcissist archetype of Loki. Who else is more fitting than a Loki to fall for a Loki? Yeah, it's weird, and it makes you ask questions, and it's what's funny about it. It's just to make fun of him even more, to make fun of this side of his personality. It's an unlikely scenario like this whole series, and the awkwardness of it all is pretty much why I love the Loki series. Did I mention Alligator Loki yet? Gosh, I wanted like a whole chapter on him. You know, I actually scrapped my first attempt at the Loki illustration. I tried to make a scene with the two Lokis trying to tame the Cloud Doggo, but I didn't quite nail it and I was not happy with my direction. But no way was I going to give up on Loki. So here we are with a much different scene. Most of the series is a more bureaucratic setting at the TVA, and I didn't want to just draw Mobius and Loki in an office. I thought this was a cooler setting with a fantasy ambience. The two Lokis with their useless little magic swords, aren't they cute? I really like that I added the cartoon clock avatar. It offers an interesting balance to the scene that contrasts with the characters, for which I chose a fairly realistic art style. I don't know, I think I like this. I mean, I'm gutted that Alligator Loki is not in it, but maybe he'll get his own episode one day. Alright, this is it for my Loki episode. I'm happy that I went with the idea of making one for Loki. I had so much to say about it. I really appreciate you guys for watching my content. Just thank you so much. And if you'd like to support me some more, you can leave a comment, leave a like. And for more of my content, you can follow me on Twitter, my Twitch channel. Thank you for watching.